The Suicide of Calamity Gulch. Calamity Gulch had always been a strange, forsaken town. Located deep in the heart of the desert, it was a place where the wind never seemed to stop howling, and the dust never settled. Once a thriving mining town in the 1800s, it had long since been abandoned, left to rot beneath the scorching sun. Only a few brave souls remained, clinging to their land and the history of the place. But everyone in the nearby towns knew that Calamity Gulch held a dark, tragic secret. In 1897, after the mines dried up, a wave of deaths swept through the town. Most were ruled as suicides, but rumors spread that something much darker had taken hold of Calamity Gulch. Stories of ghosts, madness, and an evil force lurking beneath the earth grew, and soon, almost everyone packed up and left. The town became a ghost itself. In modern times, the few residents who stayed behind were tight-lipped about the past, whispering only in the dead of night about the curse that haunted the gulch. When new people moved in, they were usually warned, but no one listened. That's how Daniel and his wife Sarah found themselves living in Calamity Gulch, unaware of the terror that awaited them. The couple had bought a small, run-down house on the edge of town, attracted by the cheap price and the quiet isolation. At first, everything seemed fine. The desert was beautiful in its own way, and the nights were peaceful. But then, the whispers started. It began one hot evening when Daniel was out fixing a broken fence. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the town, he heard something faint, voices, carried on the wind. He paused, wiping sweat from his brow, and listened. The voices were indistinct, almost like someone was speaking just out of earshot. He shook it off, assuming it was his imagination. But over the next few days, the whispers grew louder. Daniel would hear them at night, just outside the bedroom window. Sometimes, they seemed to come from the walls of the house itself. Sarah noticed it too. She'd wake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, hearing voices that weren't there. They both began to have strange dreams of people hanging from trees, of shadowy figures watching them from the hills. One evening, Sarah came running into the house, pale and shaking. She had been walking through the town when she saw someone standing in the distance near the old church. At first, she thought it was just one of the neighbors. But as she got closer, she saw that the figure wasn't moving. It was a man, hanging from a tree, his body swaying gently in the wind. The man's eyes were open, staring straight at her, and his lips moved, though no sound came out. She turned and fled, and when she looked back, the figure was gone. Daniel, now rattled himself, decided to investigate. He spoke with one of the oldest residents, an old man named Gus, who lived in a decrepit shack near the mines. Gus had lived in Calamity Gulch all his life and knew more about the town's history than anyone. Reluctantly, Gus told Daniel the truth. "The suicides, they ain't what they seem," Gus muttered, his eyes dark and hollow. Back in '97, after the mines shut down, people started going mad. It was like something had taken hold of their minds. Folks would hear voices, see things that weren't there. Then, one by one, they started killing themselves. But it wasn't no choice of their own. Something was making them do it. He leaned in closer, his voice barely a whisper. "They say the mines woke something down there. Something evil. It's been here ever since. And it wants more." Terrified, Daniel and Sarah decided to leave Calamity Gulch, but it was too late. That night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. They filled the house, echoing through every room. The voices were clear now, calling to them, urging them to join us. Daniel awoke in the middle of the night to find Sarah standing at the bedroom window, staring out into the darkness. Her eyes were glazed, her lips moving in silent conversation with something unseen. He grabbed her, shaking her awake, but she looked at him with a strange smile. "It's calling us, Daniel. We can't escape." The next morning, Daniel found Sarah's body hanging from the tree in the front yard. In his grief, Daniel was tempted to give in, to join her. The voices never stopped. They followed him wherever he went. The town itself seemed to pulse with the same dark energy that had claimed the others. A week later, Daniel was found hanging from the same tree. To this day, Calamity Gulch remains abandoned, save for the whispers of those who never left.